Hello and welcome to Weekly Open. I'm Brian, here with Josh and Don. Thanks for being here. We're glad you're here for another episode of Weekly Open. Let's talk about FTX. Our partners, weeklyopen.com/FTX is where you need to go. Make a trade directly from one asset to the other on the FTX mobile application, available everywhere. You can do it. No fees. It's easy. Track your portfolio while you're at it. Earn yield on your tokens. Do it all on the FTX app. weeklyopen.com/FTX. Thanks to them for being our partners. Gentlemen, how you doing? Don?
Very good. I mean, life's good when the market isn't looking like it's going to zero. Yeah. And that's right now, it doesn't look like it's going to zero. It looks like a range to me, so life is good.
We found love in a lonely place, gentlemen. Bounced off the lows. Spring is sprung.
Spring is
sprung.
Sun
is out.
Did
if you hear bulldozers in the background, they are bulldozers. So
did the groundhog see a shadow or not?
Depends. That's disputed because Mel, I think, was assassinated. This is a conspiracy theory. There's Punxsutawney Phil. There's Milltown Mel, who died sadly a few days before Groundhog's Day. He was 6. I think average lifespan is 3 of groundhogs. This is a whole deal. Nobody talks about this, you know. I'm joking, of course, but he did die. Rest in peace. The OG Phil saw his shadow. So, but you know, Bitcoin has not seen its shadow.
Oh,
clearly.
Oh, wow. I wasn't prepared for all that, but
let that sink in. Let's unpack that a little bit.
I'm glad I received it. Well, Don, you want to give us an update on price action?
How can you follow that? You know,
I can't.
You cannot.
I'm just carrying on with life in my inadequacy.
Yeah,
life can be a challenge. Yeah. I mean, with regards to Bitcoin price and where we are and what we're doing, we basically bounced from monthly support, right? And people always kind of tend to ignore monthly support, and you can see how you should not, because every time we go to monthly support, we bounce big time. I mean, you can legitimately, like anywhere you draw it, any kind of big move that we've had has come off of the monthly support levels, at least in recent history. So it's no surprise that we're bouncing. It's just that last week basically closed that resistance. So I actually got in pretty much at the bottom, sold 38, and then it's been up only since I sold, which I mean, to be quite fair, that's not the first time that's happened, but that's just how I trade. So for me, like whenever stuff is in the range, I just sell the first resistance and then just see how it goes afterwards. And so far, so good, honestly. Like we closed above weekly resistance. So we have like a confluence of weekly support, monthly support that kind of pushed us up. And we broke the first resistance, which is a new thing because really the entire way down, we didn't manage to break a single resistance. You can see how every time we had anything like a resistance come up, it was just straight up dumpage. And this is the first time where that has changed, right? Right here, you have resistance come up, you closed at it the exact same way that you did the first 3 times. And then we actually put in a green weekly candle. And that's really nice. I think that could be like a lower time frame momentum shift. I don't think it's going to change anything with regards to this just being a giant range and it going sideways for a long time. But I do think that we could have like a second leg or even a third leg. Like if it gets really, really bullish, we could have a third leg that takes us all the way back to range high. I am not entirely sure if that's going to happen, but I mean, you have to kind of assume that it can, just based on the fact that we finally broke the momentum to the downside. So in general, what does that mean? Like, what do you do? I think you don't want to be shorting the momentum. And I think if you get like, for some reason or another, like a dip into supports, you just buy supports. So right now, the nearest support would be 38K. If we like have like a large wick down, I think that's a good buy. Not entirely sure if we're going to get that. I could see us go to the next resistance first, which is 46K. and then reevaluate from there, because then the next support is 43K, and that opens up a buying opportunity then. But yeah, for me right now, not too bearish. If it dips, I'll buy. If it doesn't, I'll just chill, do other things, basically. That's kind of my view.
Don, I really like how you almost said it in a bragging way that was like, I might have sold early, but it's not my first time.
Yep. I mean, awesome. I honestly, like, I'm really, really good at nailing the exact bottom. I bought the bottom at during the March crash. I bought the bottom during 2018. It's just most of the time I just sell them 50% higher, or 20% or 30%. Which is fine by me, right? Because these wipeout days, it's just excellent trading opportunities. So you can get more size than you usually would buy, and then you sell a little bit higher and you just do something else with your life. You don't need to trade most of the time in crypto. I think if you just nail the few days where it actually completely wipes out and you get a few good wins in, you're going to do just fine. If you don't want to have directional risk, right? If you want to take directional risk, might as well just buy and hold, I think. So yeah.
Yeah. If you want to, you're aiming to reduce your variance in your total kind of account drawdown.
Yes.
Not just be subject to the whims of the market, but capture the known part of the, the easier part of the move.
Exactly.
Cool. I like it. Well, there's a couple different directions that I want to go today. One is I want to introduce a time frame that it just fits my bias.
There's no different directions. It's only up here. Okay,
okay, that's fair. So I'm going to go ahead and do that too, just because it's my only thing about price that I care about talking about, because I think you nailed it, Don. But in my look at boomer moving averages type of mentality, it's not that the 3-day is not useful on Bitcoin and crypto, because it actually has quite a bit of signal historically. And I like the 200 period moving average, no matter what the time frame is. Nevertheless, I found it interesting. Anytime you can locate a bottom multiple times with the same type of trend following strategy, I'm fascinated by it. Josh, I know you look at 3-day a lot. A lot of this lined up really nicely, and it tells you we're now at the decision point in the range or whatever. Relative to my horizontals, it kind of looks like we're in the clear to me. I'm personally bullish upwards of 48 to 50K. But yeah, anyway, thought it was interesting to see that 3-day 200 poke its head out. Josh, do you have any price stuff? And then after that, I want to ask about news stuff. So just go ahead and get news in your head. But Josh, what do you want to talk about price wise?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm happy we're going up instead of down. We're still in the range, so I don't want to be a Debbie Downer or anybody else's name inserted into that. Debbie gets a lot of flack for that, being a downer, you know?
She does.
Maybe we should start something else. This could be an inverted head and shoulders in the making, with the neckline basically right here if we get denied at this level. Cloud likes... Do I need to share my screen for this? Maybe I do.
You can, but I'm kind of mirroring it.
Cloud likes 50 to 54, which is pretty crazy. But that's part of the range being sold off so heavily. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to say, right? Low time frames look good because we're pushing up so hard so fast. I wouldn't say it's crazy overbought, but it is definitely leaning towards overbought on the 4-hour pretty heavily on RSI.
Are we moving so far so fast?
It's 80 on the 4-hour RSI, 82.
Okay.
But we're breaking, we broke through the 8-hour cloud. The comparisons to the 10-year look identical to me as far as the chart price structure. That broke up with an inverted head and shoulders. What I was kind of thinking about over the weekend was how we had this inverted head and shoulders set up from September to October, where I was expecting to have a right shoulder and we never did. I can share for this, I guess.
I'm not going to know that one.
Yeah. And I don't know if we necessarily have the strength to go to that degree here. I don't know where this is sharing. Sorry.
First time on Zoom.
No, it doesn't tell me. It just I guess I'll risk it for the biscuit here.
Oh, you're not live, so you're good.
Okay. So we had this set up in September, and at that time, I was also thinking, okay, this looks like stuff we've seen before. You should expect potentially something down here. Maybe not as perfect as September as far as the structure is concerned, but that's sort of what I'm expecting is a small pullback or something, right? I don't know. I would love to trade this at 43 like a week from now. I get nervous about just assuming this is going to keep going, even though the daily cloud likes 51 or something like that. Yeah, 51. One thing that is exciting though, the alligator should flip full bull today. But again, it's like, do I really want to buy this? I'd rather buy a pullback like Don is saying. If you get one, the problem is if you don't get one, then what do? Right? That's this decision tree, not investment advice. But I'd love to wait for a fractal here on the alligator stuff because I don't want to just chase this. Nobody wants to chase stuff, right? But that's what happened in October. This is Q1, not Q4, so maybe there's a difference there. But I'd much rather wait and see here what this is going to do, because I'd rather buy either the right shoulder formation or consolidation, confirmation, whatever, or a re-break of a fractal when everything tells me to do so. It was late in July if you're sort of waiting for that. So not great on backtesting in this range, but I'd much rather see that as a setup personally. And VPVR tells you what does it tell you as far as resistance? 47. Giant, massive resistance at 47 too on Coinbase. So yeah, we probably have upside. It looks good. I'm not going to get too excited in general. We're still in the range. It's just ultimately we stopped making lows. That's what we needed to do, because below 30, it gets ugly below 30, right? Not a lot below 30 volume wise.
Well, and that's what we held, to Don's point before.
It was bounce or die, as much as I hate that saying, it really was bounce or die. The 1050 is another good one. If you're just following simple trend metrics on the hit rate on backtesting, this thing is pretty good percentage wise. I mean, look at this. This gets you out November 24th at 58. I don't know. Just choose what you want, do what you like. I'm just saying, yeah, we're looking good. I think that's the general consensus here. This is a huge up day. What was this? 12%, 10 to 12% on February 4th. That's massive. Yeah,
that was a good one. I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. I was positioned for that, which is the only reason I enjoyed it. So
I mean, we made it bottom with the video that we played.
That's right.
At the bottom.
Look, it was not financial advice. It was hopium. So these are different things. They're in the contract. And I delivered hopium at the Pico bottom. All you had to do is listen to Weekly Open and get sucked in to the emotional allure to a video from a movie from the 1980s. And you too could have bought the bottom, like Don.
I mean, all the macro stuff still applies. Like that's where I'm like hedging my own positioning in my head is like, okay, we still have all this like rate stuff coming, blah, blah, blah. Like inflation, is BTC going to act as a hedge for inflation here? That remains to be seen. Are the legacy markets going to fall apart when they start raising rates again? So long term, I think it's fine. Near term, I think it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Well, before we talk next, there's a very important crypto event occurring. Do you boys know what it is? Do you?
No.
I don't think so, no.
It's very, very important. It's the Super Bowl.
Oh, jeez. So American-centric.
Don, we had talked about the over-under last week on Super Bowl ads. Or Josh, was that you and I? I can't remember. It was you and I. I think our number for Josh and I was like around 6 and 7, something like that. And it's going to be a lot. So the block is reporting on several exchange giants, amongst others, honestly, because I've heard of like non-exchanges too. So Coinbase, Crypto.com, FTX, eToro. I heard some NFT driven ones. So I think Bored Apes are doing something, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken on that. But so like it's like probably 4 or 5 that are basically known, and then there's going to be a random one for like EOS or something. Do you think?
That's why I said 5. That's why I said 5 is safe, because there's going to be like mentions of the BTC or NFTs or something. I think it's going to be like 10 to 20. Like it's going to be insane.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I guess my point is, do Super Bowl ads work? Like, is this a real way to get in front of 1 billion people that we should take seriously? That's my question.
I remember when we were celebrating, it was some like college football thing in Florida. Like was it 2014, 2015? I don't know if it was like BitPay sponsoring something. This is like, at that time, that was like this massive deal that everybody thought was going to like break the adoption egg open or something. I don't know. And it didn't really, like, it felt like a nothing burger after the fact maybe, but I think it was Florida. I think it was maybe BitPay. I can't really remember, but I mean, sure, it's a Super Bowl. Everyone's going to be talking about it, watching it. The thing is, NFTs are just so already in the conscious of everybody. I feel you walk down the street, I think 80% of people are going to know what an NFT is. Maybe not like fully, but they're going to at least have heard of it.
Don, what do you think? Can you actually achieve adoption from, TV ads that everyone in the world is watching?
I think you can pump and dump shit with it.
God.
I don't think we're gonna get much adoption, but then again, like adoption in crypto somehow always happens through like people buying into scams, losing it all, and then getting into the space, being like, "Oh shit, I could have actually bought something proper, and this is actually not as bad as I thought it was." So maybe like you get the big ads, and I mean, I think this year is gonna be better than previously, because we actually have like serious players now that are going to run ads instead of scams. So maybe it changes a little bit, but in general, like, I don't know. I feel like it's mostly just posturing and trying to kind of make yourself look more serious, which, I mean, we definitely can use.
Yeah, I definitely think that carries brand value for the individual brands, but I don't know. I had, obviously, a little bit biased. I'm in the South. The Braves are in the South. The Major League Baseball is much, much smaller. But I had local friends asking me about FTX after the World Series because, FTX sponsors like the umpire logos and does commercials during it and whatever. And I had friends like asking me about it, and then they would kind of translate it from like, interested in FTX to like, is this a good time to buy, Bitcoin, Ethereum? And what I find interesting with the Super Bowl coming this week is like, Bitcoin's not, or Ethereum, nothing's in like this major price exploration. It's in consolidation. So it's down off the highs a decent amount. Like it's definitely not the worst time to buy. So if you introduce all these kind of, oh yeah, I should remember about that. How's it doing? Last time I got burned on it. Like it's probably a better time to buy for most of these people. So I don't know. I think it's a reasonable news event that I wanted to ask y'all's takes on. You both kind of consider it a nothing burger. I think it's a little more than that, but I could be wrong.
I mean, you asked for like adoption,
yeah.
Which, I mean, price wise, I could see it be like people buy in, retail comes in a little bit. Adoption wise, like actual usage of blockchain or whatever, I don't think that changes at all. But yeah, price wise, we might see like a little bit of a bump.
Gotcha.
I don't think it's gonna do much though.
I'm interested to see the ads. I can say that. I just think that we're kind of at the beginning of mainstream like advertisement narratives for crypto. And like you're setting a tone essentially for an industry amongst the rest of the world. And I think it'll be somewhat important.
Is there any bigger flex for a company than having a Super Bowl ad? I think that's like the ultimate flex, right? Because everyone knows how expensive those ads are. Like there's no denying that.
It's like $7 million for 30 seconds.
Have you seen the ticket prices, by the way? I was blown away at the ticket prices.
How expensive it is.
Yeah. I can't even remember It was like in the multiple thousands for a ticket, and just like,
Yeah, it should be.
Why? like 10,000? Would you pay 10,000 to go to the Super
10,000 and
Bowl?
multiple thousands are different. Like,
Have you been to a live sporting event? Sometimes they're quite miserable.
no, they're always
Sometimes.
Don't be a Debbie Downer.
That's just me. Look. That's
All
just me.
Well, anyway, somebody's trolling. Gianni is trolling me in chat about how 96.4 million people watched the Super Bowl. It's much closer to the billion number when you consider the like overall reach of the Super Bowl. It's like one of the largest brands in the world. I don't care what you say. It's a big deal. It's by far the most relevant television coverage of the year in the world. So I'm allowed to bring it up. Anyway, all right.
It's a big deal. It shows like year over year growth for the industry. As silly of a metric as that is, it does. Yes, all these companies are sitting on a massive war chest of money, and they're looking to increase adoption and reach, including stuff like Tezos and EOS, right? Like these companies, foundations, whatever, have tons and tons of money to just blow on advertising.
And what these usually translate into are like broader campaigns that they continue after the event, So I just think we're going to see a lot more crypto in mainstream advertising, and I'm curious to see what it does. So anyway, that was the biggest piece of news that I had. There was lots of weekend drama that I'm not particularly interested in, but are there any other newsy items that y'all want to bring up? Because I think we should do more kind of news-centric stuff. Is there FOMC stuff to worry about this week? I feel like every week we have to worry about what Powell's saying. Are there other big events? It seems like earnings season there's still a lot of earnings going on, but not the like big impactful ones like there were last week.
So I've got 4 things on my calendar, including a 5th thing, which is today. I don't know. Okay, I work for Valkyrie, right? I'm head of research. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, so I probably should say nothing, but I will say this. NASDAQ has approved a Bitcoin miners ETF. That's all I'm pretty sure that's okay to say. It's public knowledge.
Somebody said it in the chat. So.
Yeah, I don't know what else I'm allowed to say, but I will say that, if you're interested, check it out. But it is an ETF of Bitcoin miners. We'll say that much.
Cool.
And that's pretty cool.
It is cool. It means that's an ETF where the underlying entities will have Bitcoin on their balance sheet at a bare minimum, and it's an ETF that enables that people can trade in. So that's kind of cool. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're maintaining that exposure, because it could be hedged out and other things. But in some ways, it's interesting. It might be a truer form of Bitcoin in your legacy portfolio than like the futures ETF or something like that, or like futures from CME, or I don't know. Interested in seeing what happens with those. Legacy looks pretty, I don't know, consolidation-ish.
1 second. So here's the 4 other things coming.
Oh yeah, 4
week.
Other things. Sorry.
This week and next week, I guess, right? Yeah, into next week. So we have a stablecoin hearing in the House on the 8th. We have a digital asset hearing in the Senate on the 9th. Apparently East Denver is February 11th, which I haven't really heard much about from anybody. And then we have another stablecoin hearing in the Senate on the 15th. So it's going to be an onslaught of stablecoin stuff. Not only that, we have this piece in popular media right now from somebody who I'm not even going to name about stablecoins. And I think you're going to be seeing and hearing more about that. Like Tether, Truther stuff. I think that's going to come out of the woodwork in droves, along with these congressional hearings. So
all right,
be prepared for that.
Is stablecoin FUD bullish or bearish for Bitcoin?
I don't know. At this point, the thing is, people just assume stablecoins have had one iteration, or like 2014 Tether is the same as 2021, 2022 Tether and USDC and whatever else. Like, that's definitely not the case. There have been mistakes along the way, for sure. I'm not going to sit here and defend Bitfinex or Tether, but they're certainly better in many ways than they were in the past. But everyone loves to point to problems in 2018, which on a professional level, I was also in. I can't say to what degree or whatever, but it was very much a real issue. We'll just put it at that. As far as what happened, and anyway, so yeah, that's gonna for sure bubble to the top.
Yeah, I forgot about all the stablecoin drama, but fun.
Yeah, I don't think it's bullish or bearish, honestly. Like, it's been a part of us for so long. And I think the people that like keep repeating it, at least the people in the retail space, they've grown irrelevant. And me saying that is probably going to get me like 1 million ads on Twitter being like, hey, you asshole. But it's like, most of the time, what I see anyway is like all this FUD that comes around for Tether is just by people that sold years ago and are just angry and they're looking for something to latch onto. And I mean, it's gonna be interesting when Josh talked about it. There's a few things coming up with regards to stable coins, but I mean, like Josh expertly said, it's very, very different nowadays than it is back in the day. I mean, crypto used to be very, very shady, and it's getting less and less so with every year. So every year, the risk of anything like, Tether is going to implode or whatever, decreases significantly, in my opinion. And I don't think there's much risk of it anymore.
Yeah. All right. I'm with you on that. Next question. What the heck was this weekend? Price action. Like, should we just close markets now on the weekend? Like, if you're looking for the weekend, it is right here. It was ridiculous. Yeah. Is this what?
Well, we celebrated China. Well, some people celebrated China being gone, but the more players you squeeze out, the smaller liquidity, the more it's going to be correlated to legacy in the US, the more US centric it's going to be, and the more non-price action you're going to have on the weekends. Like, that's just how it is. That's my opinion. That's certainly part of it.
Yeah, I think in general, like, another part of it is basically us just breaking the correlation traders. It's always something that happens. We kind of move and people are like, legacy doesn't really matter. Like, we move to the upside and people are like, legacy doesn't matter. We just move. It's Bitcoin, always goes up. And then legacy does something and crypto just takes a hit. And then we start correlating more and more and more and more. And at some point, almost everyone is on board with the notion that, okay, if legacy goes down, crypto has to go down as well. And then it reverses at a point where almost everyone agrees on it. And all the people that trade that way get fucked. And then it goes that cycle over and over and over again. We've gone through this so many times now where it's like this back and forth between, okay, legacy is the sole driver, and then, okay, crypto doesn't really care, and it's always back and forth. And I think we've just kind of started breaking it, and I hope that continues. Honestly, be very, very bullish, I think. So yeah, good sign.
It's definitely a good sign. We definitely need to couple in a strong way. It started late last week, I think. NFP, for whatever reason, when those numbers came out, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to try to understand the correlations to crypto there, but the chart tells me all I need to know as far as what was happening.
Nothing was happening
that time.
While the market was closed. I hate those flat lines and then just that absolute chop in crypto. Ugh.
I mean, it's up chop right now, but
sure. But I'm saying, like,
this was late last week.
While we were closed over the weekend, like, look at Bitcoin and Ethereum on that. It's gross.
Yeah, it is. I agree. But we had the wormhole hack. It got plugged by Jump, and off ETH went, and then off BTC went, and NFP happened, and I don't know. Like, here we are, right? I don't think we're necessarily correlated. But, you can run the numbers on that over a longer term and look, but we're certainly not like in lockstep like we were even what, 2 weeks ago now. Yeah. This stuff like this is super concerning, where you see legacy leading and then crypto following. Like, you never want to see that. That will help nobody in the cryptoverse. So I'm glad we've hopefully eschewed that coupling a little bit, at least it seems. I don't know. Like, is that tradable information though? Maybe you could
happen
say
at the same time. If there was an offset between them, maybe they'd be tradable.
Well, maybe you could say, maybe we're risk on now because we're decoupling. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but it's certainly one narrative people will point to.
Yeah. So there's a chart I can't stop looking at, also in Legacy. Does anybody want to guess what it is?
Uranium. No.
No.
Is it lumber?
No.
This is the 10-year.
It's oil.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked about this before, but oil to negative numbers and then oil to infinity is the most insane, hilarious outcome. I listen to the Market Huddle podcast. They're traders, but they're Gen X people that are crypto skeptics, nice guys, and they had a guest, Harris Kupperman, who was giving a case for multi-$100 oil this weekend. And I think it was actually a pretty good case. And it just makes me think what kind of chaos in the world happens when we if we get above, I have 103, 104 is this historical relevant number. I truly think we could reach 2007 level all-time highs, above 140 price exploration. Even if it's not $300, $400, $500 oil, which he thinks is legitimately in the cards. If it's $200 oil, the impact that has on the real economy is freaking massive. And I'm just curious what y'all think about it.
That's a terrifying thing to think about, especially with all the energy problems all around the world right now. And yeah. I mean, I guess it is in part to oil just getting more and more expensive, but still, yeah, it's terrifying to think
crazy about. Natural gas stuff going on with the supply side stuff, and the incredible dynamics going on in the UK for sure, but I think on the rest of Europe too, right, Don?
Yeah. Europe is struggling actually energy-wise, which is not good to see. And it's not even only Europe; it's a lot of countries in the East as well, where you just have massive shortages of oil. You don't get anything at the gas station anymore. You have to wait hours and hours for it. That's not the case in Europe right now, but it is in poorer countries, and that's a big problem, I think. I'm not smart enough to kind of see all the implications of what that is going to do, but I don't think it's going to be any good for anyone really, if that continues. And the big problem is that whenever you have oil just go nuts, right? You have these arguably shitty countries have a lot of impact on just how the world works, because I mean, there's a bunch of countries that not really, at least in the eyes of Western countries, not really good to have them powerful. I say it that way, that have a lot of oil. So yeah, no fan, but I could see it go even more nuts. It's the funniest outcome. We've talked about this plenty of times, right? When something, it's the same with crypto. Crypto goes almost zero and then to infinity, and that's what happens. So yeah.
I mean, I think it'll take some time, but I personally think that over 100 and into potentially that 140 thing is magnet-esque. And Diego in the chat brought up a worthwhile point that on a historical basis and relative to inflation, oil's not that expensive, right? It's cheaper than it was, 15 years ago. So it's it's one of those things that's been a relatively deflationary, cheaper over time thing in our economy. But as oil becomes less important in society, there's less economic activity in oil, less, drilling and new supply sources, and it ends up creating a scarcity effect over time. I think that even though demand is flat or up, discovery of oil goes down and creates potential squeeze effects and whatnot. And I think I don't think society is prepared for that. And then what that ends up doing from a impact perspective on inflation, real inflation, actually people getting to their jobs and doing the things that they require, or construction companies trying to build stuff. I think it creates an inflation narrative that is very powerful for populism, and I'm curious if it's powerful as well for Bitcoin. Yeah, so that's what it makes me think about.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily my own independent view here, but the higher we have inflation, the longer we have inflation, the more energy prices are up, the more likely we're to see massive social unrest, right? More so than we even are now.
Yeah.
Because of various policies around lockdowns, whatever your views are on that is what it is. But we're clearly seeing it in Canada over the weekend, massive stuff around that. Again, like whatever your opinion is on that is whatever. But Bitcoin's involved in that narrative as well, as the GoFundMe shut down the trucker fundraise, and then we had this Bitcoin thing.
So the trucker conflict was Canadian based. I'm like gloriously ignorant about the news.
There's actually a lot of American influence in it.
Okay.
I almost don't want to talk about it.
No, we don't have to. But it's a political component, populist component.
It is a political quagmire. Is what it is.
Gotcha.
Yes, it's populist. It's anti-government, anti-lockdown.
Gotcha.
It is fundraising stuff, and BTC was in the headlines because GoFundMe shut down the fundraise, and there was a BTC component to that as far as decentralized fundraising or something.
Gotcha.
So depending on your views of that, you could say, okay, this is a huge win for BTC, and other people might say it's not a huge win for BTC. But I think it's important to realize like why we're here. Bitcoin is a decentralized payment network. It's 24/7. It's global. And, regardless of your feelings on who is involved with that, I think on balance, it's a great thing.
So, on that same Market Huddle episode, Lynn Alden was the guest, and she's fantastic at this kind of macro narrative stuff. And one of the things that she brought up was, this is my last macro chart. I'm just using these as hints to try to get a picture for what Bitcoin can do in the face of all of this on a multi-year basis. And she talked about the strength of gold relative to real rates. So when real rates are bad, that typically has a selling pressure on gold. So she was basically making the case that while Bitcoin kind of front ran the inflation narrative and was done pumping like mid 2020, so it's like really tailed since then. But now that it's basically still consolidating while real rates have been crap, that she thinks it's fairly well positioned to do well out of that. So if we add gold to our list of, things that may do well in the future, if oil continues to go up, like, does this all create a landscape where Bitcoin has an opportunity to thrive as the alternative non-boomer asset here in the space?
Isn't it amazing how we've gone from like, there's no inflation to transitory inflation to whatever persistent inflation we have now. And gold has done nothing, just zero.
Yeah, it front ran the whole thing and then has sucked ever since. Like it's crazy.
Did it front run, or is it just part of the everything bubble? Right, at least Bitcoin is volatility, but gold is just dead.
I actually like that argument a lot because everything went up, right? So it's like when we had old season 2017-18, where even the most shitty coins went up, like the ones that were abandoned, and they just went up less than everything else. And gold is just along for the ride with everything else going up. I don't know. I don't like gold as like an investment. If I had to make a choice between gold and Bitcoin, I'd always choose Bitcoin. But yeah, I could see it do well, but then again, the narrative has been perfect and it's not done so. So it's kind of rough.
Another common thing is like for a slight against BTC is I can use gold as a medium of exchange. I can't use BTC as a medium of exchange. And obviously that's not the case, right? You can't go to your grocery store and pay in gold. Can you? At least not mine. So I think some of these arguments for gold and BTC are just hilarious to me.
I think
it's sort of a random thought.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine. I think the gold chart is one of my favorite charts in the world. Like on a monthly basis.
Yeah, it looks amazing if it plays out as a head and shoulders sometime in our lifetime, right? Like this could take 5 more years to play out. The bias is bullish. The expectation is cup and handle. There's no question about it. But the time it's going to take that to actually play out is maybe 2 years, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but I think there's probably some inherent demand for gold where your downside is not that bad, but if it breaks up, it goes to like 3K or more. I think the risk reward, wealth preservation.
Yeah, but what is your opportunity cost of sitting in that instead of something else?
Well, there's like most stuff I don't want to hold. I look at like the NASDAQ. I don't want to hold that. Not in significant amounts, you know.
The S&P looks really shit as well, in my opinion.
It's not that I'm like.
Here's a good experiment. Would you hold a Bored Ape for the next 2 years, or would you rather buy gold?
Jesus.
I'd rather buy gold. That's part of my point. That's part of my point.
You heard it here first, folks.
I think what's not.
You have to answer gold in that.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that's the kind of thought exercise when you're like, gold looks good here. It's like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's double down.
I think at this stage I would choose Bitcoin over gold still, but it's not like obvious to me to choose Bitcoin over gold. And a lot of people view Bitcoin as incredibly volatile, even though we don't, because we're degenerates.
Right. We've been here for a while. We've normalized the volatility mentally. Being here, we realize Bitcoin's not going anywhere anytime soon.
I think if you're
that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I think if your aim is wealth preservation, though, where do you go? Right, like if you're purely trying to preserve your buying power, and that's what the point of gold is anyway. Obviously, it sucked over the past 2 years where everything just went bananas. But now it's 2 years later, right? Now what? Where do you go to preserve your buying power now? Maybe it's your new wealth. Maybe whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, do y'all think there's a case for gold in that scenario? And I personally think there is. I think there's a case with more political stability than oil, even though I think oil could just mega moon. I think there's a case for lower volatility than crypto. I think there's a case for better value than stocks. I think there's certainly a case for better value than bonds, as negative real rates are very much a thing. Am I boomering?
No, I mean, I think that when I look at the chart, I think it's probably going to go up. But I think it's going to take long, like Josh said. But I think if you want to have a very diversified portfolio, might as well buy some gold. It's not a chart that is bearish. It's just the macro backdrop has been perfect and hasn't moved. And whenever I see that, it's the same with anything really. When you have like bearish news and something doesn't dump, it's usually a sign that it's going to do quite well. That's what we've been seeing with Bitcoin in the last few days, where we had wormhole happen and prices went up because they didn't go down after the news. And that makes me a little bit more cautious on the gold side, but the chart definitely doesn't look like it's going to mega nuke. So I do agree with you that it seems like less risk, but also like massively less potential to me than almost anything else that looks bullish.
I think that's fair.
I guess, do you want to pump the brakes or put on the gas? And how do you view gold in that system, in that paradigm?
I think the likelihood is that we're moving to a more value-centric couple of years. So I think there's places you can put on the gas, but if I have to like stick something somewhere to just be the part that's just chill, just maintaining buying power, I think gold's fine for that.
There's so many problems with gold, the gold market, the physical storage of gold, physical gold. Like there's so many issues that I don't even want to think about. Yeah, I know you don't care, but I do.
Gold. I'm not gonna put it I'm not gonna put it in a safe. I'll just own. I'm fine owning GLD. I'm not a conspiracy theorist about that stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, there are people who care
gold equities,
about that.
Like gold equities would be an okay solution for me with higher beta. I just think that, anyway, I've made the case.
It's worth looking at. I agree. It's worth watching. I agree. Is it going to be for most people? I don't know. Not investment advice.
I don't have a huge position, but I do have exposure to gold miners. And I would say though, I'm putting more of my eggs in crypto and real estate baskets than I am gold. And for the same reasons, right? Wealth preservation, upside. But I'm not opposed to gold. I'm sounding more and more like a boomer the more I talk. All right. Do y'all want to touch on ETH BTC or alt BTC before we go?
ETH.
ETH BTC is so boring, but I have something for ETH USD.
Yeah, show me.
But you're not gonna like it. Because actually last week, and I mean I'm not gonna like it as well. It's not like I'm sitting here being happy. But last week, do you remember our discussion when I said like if you don't sell ETH at 3K, you have higher ambitions than I do? Well, fuck. Closed exactly at resistance.
Yeah. Now we're on that intra-week candle that could easily wick itself down, is what you're saying.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that is the one thing that has me a little bit cautious. And it's the one thing why I'm like so hesitant to just buy the momentum on Bitcoin, because when ETH looks like this, there's a good chance it just takes Bitcoin with it, or like they just play off of each other basically. But I think if we have like a semi-good week and actually start going towards like 3.3K, there's actually quite some upside to be had. So I'm hoping that we close this week above 3K. Right now, this is where I would have to sell my ETH, and I would actually short hedge if I could, like my NFTs until this week is over. But since I cannot hedge, I'm just gonna sit here praying that ETH actually goes up, even though I think this is a bearish setup.
Where do you draw the lines on those candles in the left cluster before the breakdown?
What do you mean?
Like 4 weeks ago. No, like we dumped 20% like 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, yeah. You mean like?
Yeah. Do you draw the top of the body, the bottom of that green candle? Like where do you?
Like this kind of thing.
Yeah. Like where's it?
So we have like.
Do any of those matter in terms of breaking through to changing your mind?
Yeah, I mean, if we close anywhere significantly above 3K, I think we go to 4K.
Okay. So those numbers don't matter as much as the one that we just closed the weekly at.
Yes, I think 3K is just important. It's a round number. I think you can trade off of this cluster that we have here, but I would just say like if we close above 3K, there's a good chance we go to 4. If we close below 3K, I think there's a good chance that we actually go to 2. So like we are at this point where, for me, the direction is chosen. And I hate being bearish here, because it's actually really nice bounce that we've had from 2K almost all the way to 3K. And like I said, I'm not shorting, but it's at resistance, so I cannot be too bullish. And that will change if we have a strong week this week. So yeah, that's that.
Josh,
I mean, that weekly, if we're talking candlesticks, I know this is like, at this point, it's like, who cares? But when you're looking at candlesticks and you're looking at the weeklies and you see that dragonfly, I think we may have touched on it 1 or 2 weeks ago. I guess we'd have to go back in the records to see. But that dragonfly shape of that candlestick 2 weeks ago into last week's confirmation of reversal is exactly what you want to see when you're on the fence about a range or whatever. You know, it doesn't help you the week after, because at that point the move already happened, right? That was like another 10%, whatever, just like BTC. But if you're looking for, that was 18%, is that right? 18% last week?
Yeah,
yeah, it was nice.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for confirmations in candlesticks, that's exactly the type of thing you want to see, is a dragonfly into the next week's candle being closing higher than the top wick of that dragonfly. So obviously we're in the future now and it doesn't matter, but this is the type of thing that says, yeah, you know, we're probably more bullish than bearish. Obviously that bounce was real. Buyers stepped in, sellers stop selling, right? That's ultimately what the dragonfly is telling you. It's telling you there's more buyers than sellers down here. That's why that wick is so huge. So yeah, this ETH looks good. BTC looks good. Everything's still in the range. if we break the range on ETH to the upside, like if new all-time highs actually have momentum, it's 6 to 7 as far as like how it measures on fibs and whatnot, 6 to 7K. But we had that same target in November and didn't go anywhere. So ultimately we need to not only get there, but we need to have volume to keep us moving at that level. People need to be excited about buying all-time highs up there.
Look, Josh, I did not remove my yellow box at 6K.
I mean, that's...
I still have Hopium.
Oh, I would love 6K.
From a like I'll sell everything perspective.
I mean, I would sell something at least, but no, I mean, I don't want to sell. I don't think I want to sell ETH when it shows momentum. So it's basically the same thing with these kind of things. I don't think you want to sell necessarily into the all-time high. It's you want to sell these kind of 4K breaks that we've had in the past, right? So like you make an all-time high, you trade above it. And then like you make an all-time high, you have a pullback, you trade back above the all-time high. If you then fall back below it, that's where you want to get out. It's the same at Bitcoin when it fell below 60K. It's the same with ETH at 4K. So if you make a new all-time high, I think you just do the same thing again. And that's kind of how I would treat it. But yeah, right now, I mean, I have exposure to ETH via NFTs, nothing else. So if we get like a big Bitcoin and ETH run and everything else just kind of dumps, then I'm not going to make any money. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. But yeah, I'm honestly a little bit nervous about this resistance. It's usually like if we're bearish, this is where we would turn around. But like Josh said, the momentum is really nice. It's a 50% move up. That's quite significant. So I would not want to net short necessarily, even though we're at resistance.
Yeah, that's fair. My largest holding, I just bought Bitcoin yesterday for the first time in ages. So kind of just a hint to where I don't know that I think ETH will outperform Bitcoin in the immediate term, but still bullish on both. Not really very bullish on anything else. But yeah, everything else that makes sense. That said, I think I got to go. Anything in particular y'all looking out for this week?
Matic just had a massive raise from Sequoia. I don't know. It's like Bored Apes company raising money. Like, I don't understand. What are they raising for? I don't know. Maybe I'm just like not connected with the community.
You're just a boomer, Josh. You don't understand.
I'm just a boomer. I don't understand it, but it's good for...
It's okay. I'm a boomer too. I spent 10 minutes talking about gold.
I'm actually looking at XRP, Litecoin, and all that kind of crap because they're all moving up, and I don't like it. So I'll keep those on watch. I mean, XRP is up 10% today. So yeah, it's a little bit worrisome whenever they move. We are kind of on a timer in sense of up.
Well, you know what nobody's talking about? Literally nobody is Leo.
Yeah, Leo's been mega mooning. And I mean, in mega mooning in the sense of it's only been up, but it's been going really slowly. I've actually been following it. It looks insane. And it's only up. If you turn on like the lower, this is on the monthly, right? If you turn
I had no idea.
If you turn on the lower time frames, yeah, I've been following this because it's Leo. I've always been bullish on. It's just been like gold, basically. It's so slow moving that you never know if it's actually worth putting or having your money in it.
It's thinly traded. Americans can't really touch it.
All right, gents. Yeah, I gotta go.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Thanks everybody for being here. We'll talk to you next week. Go to weeklyopen.com, catch this episode more. Subscribe on YouTube, press all the buttons, except for the dislike one. Don't press that one. Go to FTX, go to weeklyopen.com/FTX, make a trade today. 0 fees. It's a great experience. Track your portfolio, earn yield, all those good things on the FTX app. weeklyopen.com/FTX. We'll catch you next time. Bye.